Hello. How are you doing this fine morning, dear? Oh, it's nice to see that you're already dressed and looking smart. My, you certainly clean up nicely, don't you? Oh, don't you just look absolutely scrumptious? Yes. I'm afraid since I'm still technically working that I must continue to wear my nursing uniform. Not that I have any casual things to wear anyway. Oh, well, I do have my church wear and funeral clothes, but, well, I'm not sure either is appropriate for this occasion. Oh, don't be silly. I rarely go out. There is little reason to waste my money on trendy clothing. In fact, this uniform is quite comfortable. Here you are, sweetie. I brought you your medicine. The blue one? Oh, well, I talked to the chemist and he didn't think it would be necessary today. We are trying to get you to be as independent as possible, you see. Make your own choices and move forward in life. You've been making such terrific advances. You did so splendidly yesterday when faced with so much stress and disturbance. Catherine is really quite the character. I'm not sure that I should say, but I never could manage her. I guess even nurses have their preferences when it comes to patients. I'm so very happy you managed to stay level-headed instead of all of her chaos. And because you did so well, we must celebrate. That's right, our picnic. I'm going to give you a little rundown of what will happen today so that there's no big surprises later. So, we shall leave in a moment and we'll walk down to the town. It's not very far, only a 10-minute walk down the hill and through a small part of the forest. It's actually a very nice walk, if I may say so. It's very quiet. Anywho, we will then go to the local grocer's, and from the allowance that the asylum has given me, we shall buy ourselves something to eat at our picnic. Don't worry, I've already packed a blanket and some plates and cutlery. I wanted to shop with you so that you could pick out all the things that you like. Well, then we can find a nice quiet spot and spend the afternoon lounging. Then I suppose we'll wander back up here for the evening. Doesn't that sound like fun? I'm glad you think so. So, are you ready? Oh, hello, Michael. What can I do for you? Oh, well, I'm not sure that that's correct, Michael. Let me check the chart. I've never seen this before. It looks like you've been double booked. I wonder how this happened. Did you know about this meeting you're supposed to have with Dr. Brown about a new therapy method today? I haven't heard anything about it. How odd. As your head nurse, I assumed I would have been alerted to any possible new treatment plans. I must have a talk with Dr. Bolton to see why I was not informed. Well, you are still scheduled for leave. I suppose it's up to you then if you'd rather meet with Dr. Brown or go on our outing. I'm sure Mr. Brown can reschedule. Jolly good then. Michael, will you tell Dr. Brown that if he wishes to have a meeting with my patient, then he's going to need to go through me first, okay? Excellent. Thank you for all your hard work, Michael. Well then, shall we be off? We wouldn't want any more distractions to pop up and waste our special date together, huh? Okay then, this way. I hope you've been comfortable here. I know it's not the most welcoming of places, but I hope it wasn't all bad. You're nearing the end of your time here. I've really seen such great improvements in you. You're so much better than you were when you first came here. Honestly, it was like you were just getting worse and worse for a while there. But now, since you've trusted in the doctoral staff of this institution, you're getting better by the day. So, well, as practice, as soon as we step out of here, I want you to leave all your demons and past here behind you. Let's go out today like new people, okay? It's just you and me, two normal people, on a normal date, on a beautiful autumn day. Do you think we could do that? Excellent. Here we go then. What a gentleman. How polite to hold the door open for a lady. Thank you. Let's see. If we just follow this path, then it should lead down to the town. Don't worry, I did all the paperwork beforehand. That's why it's so odd that Dr. Brown wanted to meet so suddenly. I will have to look into this further. Doctors, am I right? You know, sometimes I think that nurses are better qualified than doctors. Sure, we don't know all the fancy names of stuff, but there's no one better at taking care of you. Especially an ex-army nurse. We're the best. Oh yes, I served. What a question. Very well, I'll tell you how I came to be a nurse at a place such as this. After what happened with Benjamin, my brother, I was completely lost. I had no one in the whole world and nothing at all to live for. For a year I just wandered around our old house like a ghost. There wasn't much of value there, but I cooked and I cleaned like I used to. It's all I had known my whole life. I suffered severely from a lack of purpose. Benjamin had told me that the man he worked with had told him that a war was brewing, which turned out to be true. I figured I'd wait until then and fight for king and country, as they say. I suppose at the time I just saw it as a justifiable and honourable way to join my beloved family. Stupid thinking back on it now, but then I was practically a child. Well, when the war finally did come, I marched down to the town's enlistment office and I told them to make me a soldier and put me on the front lines. As you can imagine, I was laughed out of the place. Women couldn't be soldiers, I was told. Don't, please hold your chuckles. I didn't have any friends then. In fact, I hardly went out at all. Most of what I knew from my brother. I suppose it just seemed logical to me at the time that they would want all the able bodies they could get. I suppose now it makes more sense to me why I couldn't. Well, I went back day after day begging them to take me, and then one day an officer suggested if I wanted to get my hands dirty so badly, then I could apply to be an overseas nurse. And well, that was good enough for me. I agreed and I started training at Gotlock. Back then they were doing a nursing training course free of charge to help with the war effort. Then, when I was fully qualified, I sold my family's house and I went to heal all those I could. I don't expect you to understand my confusing feelings, but for me, the war was what I needed. It sounds stupidly insensitive, but all the noise and crying on the outside, it matched how I felt inwardly. The constant distraction, the constant tending and helping others, the slow and gradual numbness I felt towards death. I know it's not exactly the healthiest way to mourn, but it helped me focus on the moment. I pushed all the horror down and I helped people, and that's what kept me alive in the end. I'm sorry for telling such a sad story on our day out, but you should know by now, asking anybody about their past nowadays is bound to bring up some uncomfortable topics. Well, anyway, back to the topic at hand. When the war ended, and I took what felt like my first breath in years, I realized that instead of being happy, like all those around me, I felt a horrendous sense of horror. How could one go back to a normal life after all that? All the death and the war and darkness. How could I ever be a mother, a teacher, a wife? How could I ever be a normal person again? It was impossible. The war had ended, but my heart was still in the trenches. I was shipped back home and I had no place to live. In fact, they tore my old house down. There was nothing left. So I took up a position at Gotlock. Since then, I suppose I've just been trying to heal people in order to heal myself. As I've said many times before, half the nurses and doctors in there are as messed up as the patients. The only difference is they can afford to be insane. Oh, I'm sorry, that came off terribly rude. I don't mean that. I just wish everyone had equal opportunities to get help, not only the rich. Your family has been terribly generous with their donations. Yes, you're right. They do just want what's best for you. It's a shame they haven't taken a bigger role in your recovery, however. You really shouldn't be so harsh. We all have our own wounds to lick. I'm glad we're talking about this. It's good to have someone to talk to. It's surprising how much better one feels when they get their emotions off their chest. Oh, we have arrived. Just in here, dear. Good morning, Mrs. Doherty. How do you do?
You again.
This way. I've told you, haven't I? I'm a bit of a minor celebrity around here. What do you think? Tiger loaf or baguette? Good decision. Smoked cheese or brie? Oh, delicious. I do love cheese. Is it okay if we get some smoked meat as well? Ah, excellent. I love strawberries. Now we can't forget about something to drink. What cordial shall we get? Excellent choice. Oh, and what the heck. I know it's not in our budget, but how about some chocolate? My treat. Well then, shall we pay? Hello, Mrs. Doherty. These items, please.
Who's this with you today, Nurse Cryer?
Oh, please don't call me that. We're on a date.
Is that right? You do ken what her brother did, didn't you? Slaughtered the bunch of our bairns and the poor mom.
Thank you, Mrs. Doherty.
Careful, lad. Don't leave her alone with any axes.
Oh, I'm so terribly sorry about that. Mrs. Doherty really is an alright lady. She's just old. I gave up fighting it a long time ago, I'm afraid. It's better not to fight back sometimes. Someone ought to be punished for my brother's actions. Right. It shouldn't be me. Well, why don't we sit down on this hillside under this tree? We'll be able to look down on the rest of the village from here. I like to come up here and sit here if I have a spare time after visiting the graveyard. Here, help yourself to food. It's very locally sourced and it should be fresh. How delicious. What a treat. It's been a long time since I've had chocolate. It's very tasty. Here, have a bit. Oh, you got it on the side of your mouth. Here. Sorry, I shouldn't have touched your mouth like that. Oh, I'm all flustered. I do apologize. I can be a bit of an airhead sometimes. You're right. This is a date after all. Perhaps I could hold your hand? Don't worry. No one's watching us or will see us here. That feels nice. Your hands are surprisingly warm and soft. It's very comfortable. I'm so full. I'm glad we were able to do this today. I've wanted to spend time with you like this for a long time. I feel so normal. Like a normal human girl. Thank you. Thank you for giving me that. I feel like I'm in a dream, that I'm just going to wake up any second now. You know, if you got better, our life could always be like this. Just sitting and conversing every evening with good food and a smile. It's been a while since my heart has felt this light. I think it's because I told you about how I came to be a nurse. The truth, it brought us closer. So maybe, I don't know if you're ready, but I want you to know the whole truth. We still have some time before we must return to Godlock. I was wondering if perhaps you would like to meet my family. Oh, no, not in that way. I meant we could visit their graves together. I'm sorry if I scared you. If you think it would be too morbid, we don't have to. But I've never thought of going to graveyards as a depressing thing, more like an opportunity to spend time with those you loved and to be closer to God. I understand if you don't feel that way or would rather stay here though. Really? That's excellent. It's not very far away. Follow me. This town isn't the biggest, so it makes sense that neither is the graveyard. My family are all buried together in a plot, side by side. They all died at the same time, so it was easy to get them together. Here we are. Oh yes, I should really clear away all the older carnations. I bring so many that it can get a bit crowded. You're sweet. I guess it is a bit pretty. I hope they like it up there. Oh, well yes, their surname isn't Briar. It's a bit silly, but, well, I just thought if I could just create a whole new version of myself, I could just run away from all this. That if I go by a different name, eventually people will stop seeing me as purely as what my family did. I suppose it didn't work too well in the end. Oh, well, this way. That's right. Benjamin wasn't buried with them. He's over here. Indeed. I'm afraid the townspeople can be quite cruel. His headstone was destroyed, so now there's just this wooden cross. I'm saving up for a new one, but truly, I don't know if there's much point. I'm sorry, Benjamin. Oh, it's okay. If it's alright, I want to tell you more about him. It'll make more sense to you once I tell you. I think that maybe you'll understand me a bit better if I tell you. If it's too much, please tell me to stop at any point. This story actually, it may have some information that affects you. Well, before the war, Benjamin and Catherine were actually acquainted. I knew you'd be surprised. Please allow me to explain. Benjamin often took any job he could that would allow him to spend as little time with my family as possible. Though it pained me, he knew it was the best way to make good money and keep his sanity. He would take ship work, often not long haul, just to France and back. He worked shoveling coal in the engine rooms, doing odd jobs, that sort of thing. Whatever he could to earn money and spend a day away. One such trip, he met a strange French girl, Catherine. A rich little annoying girl, as he put it. She would order him around and ask him many questions about Great Britain. Benjamin said he told her what she wanted to know, and on the night that the ship was supposed to return, Catherine had snuck aboard. He told me upon returning that he knew off the bat that the girl was crazy, due to her being bored in her rich mansion, or generally having a chemical imbalance in her head. He said that he found her hiding among the food barrels. Well, since he was the one to find her, he was the one who had to bring her back. He picked her up, screaming and kicking, and delivered her back home. He was granted a rather pitiful reward for all that trouble. But Benjamin didn't seem to mind. He was just glad that Catherine was brought back safely. He was so patient. Anyway, it so happens that the ship left without Benjamin, and thus he was stuck there until the next day when another cargo ship would come and take him back. Since it was Catherine's fault that this had happened, her family allowed Benjamin to sleep among the servants and was invited to dine with them. He told me later that they only served gross French food that he didn't like much at all. Oh, that was Benjamin. Country through and through. I guess where his misfortunes began was when Catherine's parents asked him about Britain. Benjamin, talkative as ever, told them all about our humble town. About Gotlock. About how it was so out of the way that even Germans would have had a hard time finding it. Of course it was just in jest, but it appears Catherine's family had been kept rather in the dark about the war stirring. I suppose they were not the type of people to worry about politics, only about image and status. Well, one thing led to another, and before long, Catherine was shipped off to Gotlock, for one reason or another. That's as much as I know regarding her family. However, oh goodness, I feel like I'm rambling. I'm sorry the story is taking so long, but I promise you, this is important. I didn't know about this part until after the war. After what Benjamin did. Once in Gotlock, Catherine was given a lot of freedom. At first it was assumed that she was just a spoiled little girl with behavioural issues sent to Gotlock for protection. She was allowed to come and go from Gotlock as she pleased. Needless to say, things were quite a bit more lax back then. Well, as you could assume, she went looking and found Benjamin. If only Benjamin could have come to me about his disturbing thoughts instead of Catherine. If only he would have talked to me instead of that crazy bitch, I would have... I'm sorry. I'm trying to stay calm, but this still upsets me to this day. I don't know what they talked about, but I know when he started talking to Catherine, he stopped talking to me, and then, well, you know what he ended up doing. No, I understand that you didn't know. Most don't. After the war, I was so angry and sad and hurt. I wanted to make sure that Catherine would never hurt anyone again, that she could never fill anyone's head with horrors and manipulate them. That's why, when I found out after the war that Catherine was there at Gotlock, I wanted to work there to keep an eye on her, to make sure... Well, anyway, I failed. She hurt you. I was so angry, but I knew the only way forward was to help you get better and to have a normal life, and I just... being here with you today, seeing you smile and laugh freely out here, I know that even after all that pain and all the horrors of the past, after everything I've been through, it was all worth it to survive and keep fighting to help people. It was all worth it for you. I'm sorry. I got a bit emotional. That must be quite a lot of information for you to take on. I'm sorry I couldn't tell you sooner that I had ulterior motives. But does it really matter now? After the fact, when all is well and the storm has died, let's just try to be happy, okay? Oh goodness, would you look at the time? We really must head back. Come along then. By the way, I wanted to thank you for, trusting me and believing me. I've had a hard life, but since getting to be with you, it feels like I'm finally starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel. It's like I'm thawing after years of being frozen. So thank you. Sincerely. From one broken person to another. Before we go back to Cutlock, I was wondering if maybe before we go back to being patient and nurse, before we have to go back to being who we were, before the spell is broken and the clock hits midnight, would you end this lovely date with a kiss? Okay, I'm ready when you are. Wow, that felt really nice. Thank you. I'm glad my first kiss, my first proper kiss, could be with someone I really like. I better get back to work now. Be sure to check yourself back in at the desk, okay? I'll see you tomorrow. I was thinking maybe we could start a jigsaw puzzle together. Well, okay. Goodbye for now. Hey, it's me. Oh, no need to get up. I'm sorry if I'm disturbing you, but, well, we really should talk. Do you mind if I just sit at the end of the bed this time? So, I guess you've made your choice, huh? Don't worry, I'm not gonna guilt trip you. That wouldn't achieve anything. You've chosen Ivy and, well, that's that. There's no changing your mind now. To think, I actually thought you'd choose me. How could I have been so stupid? You never exactly believed me through any of this. Then again, I can't blame you. You're sick. That's clear. You've been drugged and manipulated, and I'm so sorry for everything. Because it turns out that in the end, I suppose we were just always in the exact same position. Sick, drugged, and manipulated. The only difference is, well, you have a way out. Don't worry. Look, If there's one last thing I can do for you, you know I'd do it. Even if that means letting you go. I don't want to hurt you anymore. All of this whole wretched place, it's all going to be over soon, so just don't worry, okay? I'm going to lay off. I won't force you to do anything you don't want to. Now, that being said, when I was stood up on our date in the old abandoned East Wing, I did some looking around and I found something you might like to know about. What? Why would I ever lie to you about a dumb Nurse Briar of all things? That sneaky She told you more about Benjamin, didn't she? Ugh. I didn't think she would have told you so soon. She must have smelled blood in the water. You know, I respect her in that regard. She really isn't as dumb as she looks. What did she tell you, huh? I drove her brother insane. I ruined her life, but that she still wants to help people. You've got it all wrong. Please. Just tell me exactly what she said, okay? Right. Damn it, that... Well, I think it's only fair you hear my perspective. When Benjamin came to France, it was true that we met and he took me back from the ship, but when he got there, he didn't just mention subtly about Garlock. He sold it to my parents. How amazing it is, how safe it was, how beautiful the countryside is. My parents were so sold in the idea that I was shipped there soon after. They were so desperate to get rid of me that they didn't see that Benjamin was clearly just trying to drum up some good business for this stupid, dilapidated place. I couldn't entirely blame him. The more money coming into the town, the more job opportunities, the faster he can get away from that god-awful family of his. He was a nice guy, really. Me? I did no such thing. Not intentionally. Look, you have to understand. I was sick. I was a sick, messed up kid who hated my parents, and so was he. Teenagers, they say things that they don't mean. When someone says they just want to kill their family, who takes that seriously? All the things I said, and the things we talked about, to me, it was just a messed up fantasy I came up with to cope with being abandoned in a country I didn't know. But to him it was all real. You have to understand, I never thought he would actually kill his whole family. And then, when he did, I felt so awful. I hated myself so much. I went pretty much crazy then. I was locked up and sedated heavily for a really long time. It took me a long time to just remember all of these memories of what really happened. My parents, they did what they do best, and they swept it all under the rug. Well, I'm ashamed to admit it, but I hid from it. I pushed it all down, and I ignored it, and I told myself I wasn't to blame. How could I have known? I was I was just letting my emotions out with a friend and, well... Look, you have to see that this is all in the past. It was a horrible, horrible accident that should have never happened, but you see, I wanted to just forget about it because I really did think he killed all of his family. Look, I have something I really need to tell you. Now that I remember everything clearly and put everything together straight in my head, I didn't know Benjamin's sister was still alive. I didn't know for a long time, and when Ivy started working here, I had no clue who she was. She was just an old nurse that I'd ignore, but over time, I realised my life started to get worse and worse since she had joined. Just shush, listen, okay? I'd hear rumours about having a messed up family life, but I honestly didn't care about her past at the time. I was too busy with you. Too busy talking about the plan. Well, you know, you went crazy and stab, blab, whatever. And when you woke up, it was great and the plan was working, and then who ends up being your new nurse? No, just listen. I know how this sounds, but you have to listen. After the first night, I went and I did some digging on Nurse Ivy Pryor, and that's when I found out who she is, what her real name was. So of course, I freak out, right? I thought she was dead, and now here she is magically, throwing a big old spanner in the works of our plan. Look, I thought for a while, hey, maybe she doesn't know about me. Maybe she just came home from the war and was desperate enough for a job that she started working here. I needed a way to find out the truth, the real truth, from her own lips. That's where you came in, you see? You asked about the carnations, and it seemed at the time that she knew nothing and was stupid and I had nothing to worry about. But then when you didn't show up yesterday, I just knew. And so I went through file after file and I found it, the final puzzle piece. The minutes from a meeting Nurse Ivy Pryor had with Dr. Bolton concerning your electroshock therapy. In it, she's trying to convince him that you must have the shock therapy as quickly as possible, that you need it urgently, and it turns out that despite how hard I was trying to drive you crazy, none of that even really mattered. What they needed was for you to have a mental break and become violent towards another patient. Baby, don't you see? Don't you get it? It was never our plan. It was never your idea. It was Ivy. It's been her plan all along. No, listen, I'm not crazy. You have to believe me. You have to... Ugh, shit. Already? Ugh. She came here to torture me. She came here to ruin my life and to steal you away from me. My single last chance at escaping this nightmare. Please, baby, you have to understand. It's the asylum security alarm. There's been a break. Yes, of course I did this. Look, there isn't much time, but you have to trust me. This was the only way. I could never know if you'd actually come back for me, that you'd actually save me. You chose Ivy, and that forced me to do this. Now is my only chance to escape. Our only chance to escape together. If we stay here any longer, then Ivy will have you forever. Our only chance to get out of this together is if we leave now. We could run away and be together forever in secret. You just have to. Darling,
Are you alright? I heard the alarm and I wanted to... Catherine.
Ivy.
So, you've been coming here at night, you weaselly Don't you know that you're ruining his chances at happiness?
Me? You're the one lying to him and encouraging him to push down his issues instead of dealing with them. Just admit it. Stop that stupid goody two-shoes act and admit it. Everything, just admit you came here to torture me, to steal the only love I've ever known in this life away from me. Admit it!
You're crazy. You're goddamn crazy. Get away from him right now and go back to your cell before you get another fucking eye stabbed out.
Baby, listen, we don't have much time. I'm leaving this goddamn hellhole with or without you. Let's go together. My family has money. They would give me money to stay low. We'd be well off. We are the only ones who truly understand each other. This whole time, Ivy's just been lying to you. I need you to...
Not one more word. This is absolute insanity. If you go with her, then I am forced to assume that you have no more interest in getting better, and I shan't chase after you. Stay here with me. We will work through your troubles the proper way, and then, when you're actually better, we can leave here together and not be forced to hide for the rest of our lives. You have to trust me.
Hello, everyone! If you'd like to vote on who you choose to go with in the next part of the story, please check out my Patreon. There will be a link in the description below. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you.